Oh, man.
Oh,
Okay. We are live.
well, howdy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So I think first we talk about why the year.
Well, we are creating a religion. More on that later. No. So I think it was just a lot of school and just a lot happened.
Yeah.
There was just a...
I think first we
Oh, shoot.
talk about.
Obviously, we're a mess. You know.
It's first day back.
First day back, we're a mess. It's great.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we were gone because, we kind of fell out of it. Some of the school stuff was way in the way. I know during December it got hectic, and then freaking Corona and stuff hit and just got weird. But
Everything's messed up.
everything is messed up.
But now we have time. So much time.
So much. And so much has happened.
Yeah.
I think we've definitely had a lot happen to us, and a bunch of different stuff has happened. So, but we're gonna. I think the whole point of the podcast is kind of get away from the world and do all that.
Yeah.
So,
To just talk about some random nonsense.
random nonsense.
Because life sucks right now.
and we're here to make it kind of less that.
Plus that, you get some time to listen to a couple of idiots that you know from school, I guess.
Or
that you don't. I don't know. We go to two different schools. So
there was an idea.
there was. We had a plan.
We're gonna get right into it.
So I don't know a whole lot about it, but the idea is not really a religion, but kind of can be. It's a way of life.
It's a way to look at the world.
Yeah, and all living beings.
So, for some backstory, my dad and I were, having this discussion about religion and whatever, and I'm not really a believer. I don't think Oryan really is either. Just kind of on a general sense, we're not really...
we're not God-fearing people.
But we're respectful.
Yeah.
And my dad is he is a religious man of the Mormon church. My mother is a proud Jew, and so they're a little weird, a little weird duo. But so every now and again, my dad and I will get into these like hour or so long discussions about just religion and like our views on life. And so we were getting into it, and we were talking about how like. He was telling me about how the Mormon the Book of Mormon is like the most true book ever, and I was talking to him about how like basically disagree and like how my view on the world works, and then he was telling me, he's like, some Mormon, and I was like, we were talking about heaven, and he's like, some Mormons believe that there are multiple layers of heaven, that God has a creator, and that he was created in someone's image, and so on and so forth forever, and he doesn't know if he believes that. And then I was sitting there, which blew my mind, because you ever just like are in a conversation and you kind of just sit there and you start like stuttering and flipping out because you feel like you just figured out the meaning of the universe.
Exactly. You got a little excited.
I got so excited. I think after I had the conversation with my dad, I went straight to you, and I just was like, Oryan, I have stuff. I figured out. I've been enlightened.
And that enlightenment was that the possibility of the life is a simulation.
Oh my god!
Is his iPad in there?
No, it's not in here.
Okay, come on.
Oh my god! Anyway.
Is his iPad in here?
Yeah. Anyway, God. No, so we're talking, and when he mentioned this, like, multiple layers of the Lord, right? I'm like, my mind went straight to the simulation theory.
Yeah.
And like, I remember shutting down for like 4 seconds. I looked at my dad in just pure awe as I tried to map this out in my head, because I blew my own mind. And so the idea is basically, so for those of you that don't know, the simulation theory is a theory that humans or something something as intelligent as humans or something along that line has reached a point in their development where they were able to create a simulation of the world that is so accurate to real life, so close to real life that basically just everything in the simulation feels like it's real because it's so accurate to how things work, and it's something that is so possible and probable. Like Elon Musk says, it's the likelihood that we're not in a simulation is like 1 in a billion. That's like Elon Musk, smart guy, got all the little electric cars. Man with the flamethrower. He and you know, the fact, like, that's not far-fetched at all. That technology is coming. Like, maybe not within our lifetime, maybe within it. I know that crazy advancements are being made technologically. Blows my mind. But like things like Neuralink and stuff like that. Dude, don't. We'll get into that later. But
it's the thing is that the simulation theory isn't far-fetched. So what we did is we made it far-fetched. And when he called me to tell me about all this, my mind went straight to the idea that there is this like really just sad middle-aged man sitting in a dark room at a computer desk with, like, he has the huge bags because he works a 9-to-5 job, and he just goes home and plays with his little simulation of Earth. And I named him Steve.
So in the same way you would play Sims, Steve plays Earth.
Exactly.
But it's so on another level. So this is how my explanation for if the Bible is real, right? The way I like to look at it is thinking that maybe this guy Steve, you know, started out with and the way we kind of rationed it out is that there is a ton of people in the outside of the simulation who have a bunch of their own simulations, right?
Yeah,
and that like this guy has like a 9-to-5 job, comes home, doesn't have a wife or anything.
Yeah, no,
and he just screws with people, and so like, and then there's rules and regulations on it. For example, because if you create a device that can simulate emotion and simulate what it is like to feel, you kind of get into some weird ethical places. So our justification for it is maybe there is a legal, like a little legal attachment to it that says if you have a simulation, when your simulations die or something, right? Like if they if whatever existence they're in stops, they have to be moved to some sort of like, you know, like the cloud, but
a heaven,
sort of heaven where they kind of live in just absolute euphoria forever, and they become perfect. They're no longer crippled. You know, all their dogs are there, and so that was I was like, okay, so that could be heaven, right? So maybe ethically we're not allowed to kill to simulate humans without giving them some sort of afterlife. Maybe that's the explanation, right?
Yeah.
So Steve comes in and, you know, maybe this is some sort of like offset server, like from the company that sells it to you. They have like machines in the back that are just dedicated to
a whole database for holding those the souls of the simulation.
Yeah, it's exactly. We kind of paired like the data and the information that makes up a simulation, individual person of a simulation. We kind of paired that to like what a soul would be like.
Exactly.
And obviously we're looking at this from like the Christian or like Bible area, but you could kind of do this from, I'd say, most one God religion.
Yeah,
so I think I don't know enough about a lot
because
of them,
the idea is that it's an infinite loop where, you know, Steve is the creator of this simulation, but Steve has a Steve. Yeah. So it's an infinite loop of just thinking that there's, like what he said before, a God that created a God that we know or that we think we know. So it's the infinite idea of there is some dude, like, we're in this simulation and he's just so depressed and he is done with life and he just comes home to nobody except his simulated world.
His robot overlords are we were talking about how like humans are at a point where like where the robots are doing everything for them. So all they have to do is kind of play video games all
Yeah.
day and experience life through these like simulations and stuff like that, and that maybe, and we were talking about how like Jesus could have been like his player character,
Yeah.
where like he put himself, he picked a dude, right, way back when, and he said, this is the guy I want to be. That I'm gonna play with this guy, and we're gonna run around and we're just gonna screw stuff up. We're like,
Yeah, he's just having fun.
we're gonna go piss off the Romans. we're gonna run over here. We're gonna go. Oh, he died.
Yeah.
Resurrect.
But another thing, right, is that each period of time can be explained as like expansions and DLC.
Yeah.
So like you have the beginning. Oh, not quite beginning, but like the first real life was dinosaurs, really.
Like the microorganism
yeah,
era.
Technically you can go to like bacteria and garbage, but the real fun stuff is like he buys the game and he's like a bacteria. He's like, dude, this is lame. So he pays for the dinosaur DLC,
Yeah.
and so his world gets all flushed out with all this other really cool, vegetation and creatures, and then he gets bored of that. So what does he do? He fucking smacks it with a meteor. All right, he's bored of that.
All
He
the
wants
dinosaurs go to heaven, to the cloud.
Yeah, they all go to the cloud,
Uh-huh.
and then life starts anew. He starts like the Ice Age expansion, and
That's super
yeah, and-
It's so cool.
exactly. So mammals start coming about, a whole new everything. Things start to develop,
Uh-huh.
and then, he wants another one. He wants more, I guess, something more entertaining, something he hasn't seen before. Because all of these have been mindless creatures who just kind of, they're born and they fight to survive. It's all this very primal sort of, esque simulation. So to dive in deeper, giving his creatures more thought. So then, the newest expansion comes out, people. They have the evolution chain from primates, and you just kind of
You get to watch it.
yeah, you get to watch them evolve. And for us, like maybe what feels like millions and billions of years to him is just like a day he comes back to his computer.
Yeah, the same you would play any sort of simulation game, and right like now, where obviously you're not going to watch your simulation become go from baby to human. You're going to hit the fast forward button and they're going to grow super fast, but in their reality they're growing at their normal rate, and time is moving for them how it would, but to the viewer it's
like you're playing Sims.
And then
basically
I know when I brought this to you, you had asked me, you're like, well, doesn't it seem like it would be really complicated for each individual person to figure out all the physics and everything and to create the world and the universe so that it all works. But what I had said was is it's not hard, because what you do as the game company is you have all this, you have the physics engine and you have the universe engine, you have that all laid out already. So when you buy the game, that comes with it, right? So you have like everything that you need as far as like physics and stuff like that. That's all mathed out for you by all the supercomputers and nerds that work in the background, right?
Like a game designer.
Like a game designer. So these people know what they're doing, where the layman's may not. So you just have them do it.
Yeah.
And bada bing, bada boom. You have you have the thing set up, and then the world is your oyster, literally.
Yeah.
And so then you get like all the ethics involved over time, and then you get the heaven, and then the guy gets bored, and that's what I loved doing was explaining every bit of the Bible, like little situations in the Bible. It's like, okay, so Moses parting the Red Sea was just like, it's just like, yeah, sure, because we were talking, it's like at the start of a simulation where you have very few people, you're gonna kind of have fun with it. You're gonna really empathize for these people and kind of check in on them and see how your simulations are doing, and maybe you're not going to speed up time as much to kind of experience what life is like.
Exactly, because you want to play around with your new game.
Yeah, and you'll put Jesus in there so you can interact with everybody, and
everyone thinks you're the savior.
Yeah,
you feel good because you're the main character, and then you get bored, you die, and so then everyone kind of learns from that, and you check in on your game every once in a while. So basically, we're saying God is no longer with us. And Steve got bored.
Steve got bored, but maybe
he checks in every once in a while.
Because what we were saying is it seems like in the Bible, prayers were answered all the time, and there were people being talked to by God all the time. I'm not very educated on the Bible, so this is just really rough. I know I'm probably offending somebody, all four of you. But so the gist is maybe at first, he was really like there. He would see little thought bubbles or prayers come up, and he would, maybe answer a few prayers. But then as the population continues and religion started spreading like crazy, this guy can't sit and answer billions of prayers because, like we were saying before, like a rational person may look at their simulations as actual living creatures who have feelings because they are, right? They are people who have emotions and stuff like that because that's what they are. They're simulated people, and that's why the ethics come in and stuff like that. So maybe he wanted to, but then you get to a point where you just can't handle it. So maybe he gets bored, and you're just like, you don't deal with it as much, which might explain, I guess, the explanation for why why there's less human god interaction now.
I mean, because a lot of people are kind of turning away from religion as a whole.
It's like it was the second. Atheism is like the second biggest religion in the U.S., I think.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people because
maybe in the world.
Yeah,
that might have been wrong.
I don't know, but obviously, I think a lot of people know more people who don't believe in a religion now than ever.
I think I feel like though that might be. Or yeah.
Okay. I mean, because I know quite a few Christian folk and just religious people in general, and the people that are around them, I also know them to not be religious or at least not speak of it and not be really open about it. So there's this whole thing where maybe in this explanation of the simulation where Steve, God, is not interacting as much, people are losing faith because at the beginning it was a new thing, it was really fun, he was answering the prayers and kind of, okay, I'll make that come true. Little Jimmy John, his mom has cancer, I'll make cancer go away. But now there's like freaking billions of people who have cancer. He's like, damn, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh my gosh,
I don't want to answer 10 billion Jimmy Johns.
That was another thing we were talking about. Like maybe they just launched the new pandemic expansion, and it's like, and Steve is like, all right, I'm just gonna slap one of these. Haven't done the plague in years.
Yeah. Are your people overwhelming your simulation world? Well, have we got the newest thing for you? What, COVID-19?
COVID-19.
Kill off all the boomers that once believed in God.
Oh my god. Your simulation's faiths in you will die.
Spice up your world.
Spice up your world with a little bit of COVID.
And that's just really... It's so interesting because nobody can tell us we're wrong.
I would actually love to hear somebody else's point of view on it.
Yeah.
Like, somebody who's really well educated or just like has some sort of thought on it,
Exactly.
Where they're like, well, this thing happened in the Bible here. How could the thing explain this? And I would love to try to explain that.
Yeah. Because you can. I actually, on the spot, I think we could. Because everything, looking at it from a simulation... Obviously, we've been comparing it and drawing lines to video games because that's what it is.
Yeah,
the easiest comparison that we know is Sims, where you are this eyes in the sky creating a world for your people.
Dropping bathtubs on people.
And it's just, if you look at history and all that, it's not like super making sense, but you can't say that it's not possible.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it for even just a little bit, you can be like, okay, I can see how that would be. A thought process.
Yeah.
You can't tell us we're wrong. It's so good. And that we
can be mad at us, but you can't tell us we're wrong.
Yeah. And that's where the line of where we can make a religion out of this.
Oh,
because all it takes is a few people. It just takes a few. Because then they teach it to their families and their friends, and then it spreads.
I will raise my children with this idea.
Yeah, exactly. We're making a cult.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because that's all religion is a cult.
Steve wants us to sacrifice multiple goats a day.
Exactly.
And toenails aren't actually allowed, according to our religion. So we have to do it. Yeah.
Steve speaks through us.
Yeah.
We're woke.
Give us 30% of your paycheck.
And another thing, speaking of that, is I kind of talked to Nathan when he called me. Is so then why are we able to think this way, right? So if this was true, in my mind, it would be what happens is Steve is sleeping on his freaking his small bed and like in his room, and he gets a little notification on his computer, and he like puts on his glasses. He's like, "What?" It's like the middle of the night. And it's like, "Oh god damn it! Another one figured it out," and he has to go in and like delete that person because they became like aware of that the world is a simulation. But then you kind of explain to me that in a true simulation, like in simulation fashion, that's going to happen sometimes. So then he wouldn't. I think he would just kind of laugh. Yeah. Like, it's like, you got it. Hey. Yeah. So, just the idea that it's some 30 to 40-year-old dude who has just the most depressing average life coming onto his computer to play Earth.
Yeah, Earth. And so we were saying, like, some of the logistics behind it is, like, you get to, like, download a world, you know, and like, do all this. And also, because in my head, right, it's a human playing.
Yeah.
But in reality, it could literally just be some weird alien species that I can't comprehend. Just some, like, lanky, like, weird octopus creature who's just slapping the keyboard. I don't know. Would octopi have keyboards, you think? What would it be?
I don't know. They kind of have like a weird bongo setup where they can like slap on a drum and then something appears on the screen.
Dude, imagine how creepy that would be from a human's point of view, walking into a big octopus, like slapping a bunch of bongos, like aggressively, while a bunch of smaller humans just burned because Steve, the giant godlike octopus, got angry at his wife one day and decided that he didn't want these little humans anymore, and he was restarting the universe.
He was punishing his simulation. Everyone that looked like his wife, Carol, you know, they're all being sent to the hell server.
He goes and he makes another simulation. It's all his wife. It is billions of Karens or Carols, billions of Carols in just an eternal hellfire.
Making them like slave away for an
just
overlord.
Big chiseled statues of him. That is dark. Because as we discussed, these are people. So it's just some butthurt dude.
Because of like the ethics of it, would that be so?
The FBI's watching.
Yeah. So like, hold on. The ethics that we talked about before is that we didn't discuss a hell. Like, there's only a heaven because these are like creatures with thought and emotions and feeling. So then, to explain hell, it seems like the only way to logically explain it would be that hell is something that the simulation itself created, like the own thought. Oh my god! Like maybe that's it, right?
I don't know. I think so. What I think maybe owning a simulation would be like owning a pet.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you can kind of get away with hitting your pet. Like, it's not a good thing, but it happens.
So yeah, you think, I don't know, maybe.
So, but if somebody finds out,
that
butt stomped,
you are creating this simulation where to burn like living, I guess, like simulated people who in their mind think that they are alive.
Yeah, like us.
It's exactly like us, and sending them to an eternal hell pit where you just have to exist and freaking. You got like a loincloth. Everything else, you're just naked. It's all red and fiery.
He'll just like start throwing them against the walls and stuff like that. God, it's awful.
Yeah, but so you have that two-way kind of like, either it's an action that is like frowned upon in that sort of environment where they're running the simulations. They're not supposed to have a hell or any place that would hurt the people. But you have some people who are just like angry one day and they send everyone to damnation, or you can have it to where it doesn't actually exist and it was something that we created because we were creating a religion and stuff, and we needed a way to control other simulated people.
Oh my god!
So, because we as people, if we are a simulation, we are corrupt. we are so evil.
It kind of shows like the nature of people, like just existence, right? Like,
exactly. It's a power struggle.
Well, that's the simulation, right? Is like, let's see if things that are left to their own devices. This is why you would simulate things to experience what it is at something that you wouldn't be able to experience at a speed otherwise, right? So it's like, let's start life and see what happens to it, and see if there are like laws to the universe, to the laws of nature. If creatures have free agency to go and do whatever they want, will they end up being just sadistic killers, right?
The answer is yes.
And in our case,
for
the most part, yeah, we've done pretty good. We're civilized.
Kinda.
Just don't go, like, you got Europe. There's definitely problems here, though. There's problems everywhere.
There's problems everywhere.
But at least we don't have concentration camps like China.
China is... They're playing their simulation a little bit too aggressively.
You want to hear something crazy about, like, corrupt people? You know PETA? Like, the animal people?
Yeah.
Dude... So, I'm getting my information from from PETAKillsAnimals.com. Okay. Might be biased, but I saw a few articles written by the New York Times that kind of supported what they said.
Disclaimer that we're just talking shit, and we don't know, like, if any of this is really factual. I've had several times where Nathan has told me something, and I've looked it up, and it has been absolute garbage and super dramatic that he's told me.
Most of the time I'm right.
Most of the time he has the right idea, but he blows it out of proportion.
It's fun. It's
like we didn't get rid of like half of Massachusetts.
It was Oklahoma.
This man thinking we just gave natives freaking half of Oklahoma or something.
There was a news story I saw. It was like the Supreme Court ruled that like half of Oklahoma belonged to the natives. The Native Americans because
of a broken treaty.
Because of a broken treaty back in like 1970 or 1917.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a broken treaty that happened a while ago because some guy did something bad. And
this man described it as like Oklahoma was becoming like half of it Oklahoma, the other half some sort of native reservation camp or something. I don't know. The natives own it and it's its own entity now. It's not true. It is still Oklahoma.
It's still Oklahoma,
and it's just natives. It's all legal stuff with how like,
I think the police just don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah, no, it's all like over native people specifically.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's so the police don't have jurisdiction over they go to like the tribal courts or whatever it's called.
Oh, okay.
It's just native people, I'm pretty sure, have to deal with native laws, and so they aren't prosecuted by the eyes of the white man. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the people that live in that side of Oklahoma that is under like native jurisdiction.
But what's more fun to say? We gave away half of Oklahoma to the natives, and the rest of the U.S. is next. Or so natives kind of have Oklahoma.
Yeah. So what we're about to say from like now on and forever. Forever.
Don't listen to us.
Listen to us with a grain of salt. Specifically Nathan.
Hey!
Specifically Nathan. I will tell you all factual things.
Okay.
Like, God is a lie and Steve is
I hope you get struck by lightning by the hands of Steve.
I hope so too.
Steve the creator. Anyways. PETA kills animals.
Woo!
So, according to PETAKillsAnimals.com, 83.5% of animals in their shelters get killed. Executed.
Yeah.
83%! Dude. And it's like healthy animals. There's been stories of PETA people, vans with PETA painted on the sides. It's been a few cases. They drove up to this guy's house where his chihuahua was sitting on like the front porch. They napped the chihuahua and put it down. Came back, gave the guy a letter saying like we like freed your chihuahua and like killed it. Like it's like what?
Do you think that's Steve? Do you think that's Steve's doing?
You think he runs PETA?
No, he runs everything. That's the point. Yeah. It's like,
well, I mean, everything is pretty autonomous for the most part.
Yeah,
but he can interject.
But he can do anything. That's the idea. Is that Steve, the Almighty One, can do anything. So he creates. You can explain anything radical with Steve. If
he's just pissed, and so he wanted to kill a little girl's dog.
He asked a girl out at his work, and she told him no, get lost, so he created ISIS.
Oh my god!
Prove me wrong.
ISIS is a simulation. Changed my mind. 9/11 was an outside job. It's real outside.
Oh my god. I bet 9/11 was the divorce.
I feel like there's arguably worse things to do than 9/11 though, right? Like, you don't think if after a divorce you would just decide to nuke the world? Like, wouldn't 9/11 be like World War II?
I would think
Like,
more,
I mean, not a divorce would be like World War II.
maybe. What would be the Cold War then? The Cold War is like he got angry, but he planted stuff for the simulation to maybe destroy itself.
That was just him being bored. He's like,
yeah,
he's just like planting the seeds of mistrust in the mind of
the United States and Russia. Yeah.
Like, this guy has a dream of just hellfire and like the U.S. bombing him. And he's just like this like super high up general, and he just like dreams about the U.S. bombing him. He's like, I don't trust them, man. and then on the other side, it's like whatever the president was at the time. Steve is like, ooh, Russia's gonna stick it in your butt, and then they're just like. They've just got their hands on their buttons, on the nuke buttons for a bit.
God, we almost died in the Cold War though. Like, nukes were about to be fired
because
over a mistake.
A mistake. There was like a weird like
that
blip
was
on
Steve.
the radar or something.
Yeah, that was Steve.
Do it.
He was messing with the Russia's radars, all right? Because Russia got they got a false alert that we had launched nukes,
Dude,
and so they were going to launch nukes when we didn't, and so we got news from a spy that was working inside Russian intelligence. Hey, they think we launched nukes, and they are about to fire back. So, and basically, it was just like, well, we didn't, so we're about to get nuked over nothing. That was Steve. He was bored. He was tired of this Cold War bullcrap, and he's like, alright, I'm just gonna make this, like, thing go brr. And he freaking sends a notification on the radar, and everybody's about to destroy each other, and we don't.
And we do not.
And we don't. So he was upset. He's sad. And he can do nothing now.
God, it sucks to be in Steve's simulation, right? Like,
yeah.
Imagine being in some like girl named Daisy's simulation who's like, she's
oh my God.
Everything's just sunshine and rainbow. Everyone is just hooked up to dopamine, like just tanks, and they're just like enjoying life.
Everyone lives in the same house. It's always sunny. It never gets night. It's got like the white fence with the green grass yard.
Everyone has a little support dog.
Yeah, and they all
Safe
have like
spaces everywhere.
A red bicycle.
It's just Switzerland. Or like, yeah. Daisy's simulation is literally just like Sweden. Eat your meatballs, go to IKEA, have a good time.
Exactly. And then you have Steve,
who's just slaughtering people by the millions.
Just different creators is so great to think about, that we are created by Steve because our world is kind of evil and sucks a lot sometimes, and then there's a world created by some like 11-year-old girl named Daisy where everything is perfect sunshine and rainbows.
Have you ever seen the have you ever seen those videos of people who like, you know, like the modern simulations where they just like screw with animals and do stuff to see what happens, like putting them. I watched this one YouTuber. He puts people under extreme, like he puts the simulations under extreme stress to see what happens. Like he'll
like,
be like
watching creatures evolve with no oxygen.
With no oxygen.
Yeah.
Or it's something like slowly taking away all plant life over the course of like hundreds of years to see what happens.
Yeah, to see evolution, and that's so weird thinking about how that could be us. We're just, I mean,
global warming is just part of God's plan.
Steve he's making us, he's cooking us. All right. Steve's cooking us right now. It's been like 30 seconds for him, but you know, we cook in a month.
That's great.
A second is a day. That's, I mean,
well,
that sounds logical.
Dude, you want to hear? It's more than that, because I'll tell you something. So, I was looking into, basically just listening to dudes talk about AI. You know, Elon Musk, Sam Harris. the intellectuals, if you will. And
I don't know who Sam Harris is, but I'm going to keep nodding along like I do.
He's just this, like, super atheist.
Oh, that's great.
He's not a super atheist. He's an atheist, and he's publicly atheist, and he just kind of talks about a lot of things. He's a really smart guy, PhD.
Is he hot?
He's all right.
But
I'd say same, maybe
1 out of 10.
a 7.
A 7? All right.
Better looking than us.
Oh. Yeah, that's not an accomplishment.
But so these guys are saying, AI is coming, but it's coming in extreme ways. Like,
we're coming hard.
Yeah, they're coming hard. Like 50. I'm telling you, 50 years, and what they're saying is like they're projecting at a 50-year minimum, probably maximum of like maybe 200 years. That's pushing it. They're saying within that time frame, we will have AI strong enough to pretty much do everything. Like
incoming bastions.
And I'll tell you. So if you can create, this was the example Sam Harris used. If you can create an AI that thinks at a level of a human, right? If you can just create something that thinks like a human, and it's a computer, computers can function at 1,000,000 times the rate of the human mind. So what that equates to is about 20,000 years of progress for every year that passes for a human.
Dang.
Yeah. And that number might be lower than it might be like million. It's a huge number. Mm-hmm. Like even 20,000. We'll keep the 20,000 mark just because that's absurd, anyways.
Yeah.
Like, if something is making that much progress, imagine. First of all, we have to be careful because if something is doing that, right? If America does it first, what's the first thing you're going to do if you're China? If you hear that America has this technology to advance at 20,000 years.
I mean, you're going to want it.
You're going to want it, or you're going to just delete it off the face of the earth, right? Yeah. So you have that, where that's crazy, because what would America do? We would do the same thing, knowing what China does to their people now.
Yeah, because you would have politicians and people in power who would fearmonger and
not even fear. That is a true fear to have.
Yeah, but
you don't want China with that kind of power.
I mean, you don't want anyone with that kind of power.
True, yeah.
So then everyone would turn on them. It's because that's the human nature way.
It would.
Everyone wants to be the strongest one, but nobody wants anyone else to be the like.
Because that's scary.
Yeah, not even. Everyone wants to be the strongest one for their own protection.
Yeah.
But then everyone else looks at that person who has that power for their own protection and looks at it as, well, they're going to use that power against us.
Yeah. Not
for their own protection, but we can't defend against that, so now we have to either get rid of it or get it.
Yeah, it's they're both talking. So what Elon Musk is trying to do to save us from AI is, first of all, he's gone to all the world leaders, like all the big ones who would listen to him, and he has warned them. He's been like, AI is coming. Buck up, right? Like, stop being a dick. Get yourselves ready because it's on its way, and if we're not ready for it, our economies will collapse. Our societies will crumble, mass starvation, all of the bad things will happen. And we need to be wary of it. Because I was telling my parents, I was like, if this happens, there's no reason to have jobs anymore. Everything is going to be automated.
Yeah.
Because an AI can do things better than humans can. Even if I'm willing to give you that maybe humans can do creative things better. Because we have that human element.
Have you seen AI making memes in poetry, in books and stuff?
Those are funny.
Yeah, I mean...
It's bad now.
It's so bad now, but in due time.
Yeah.
Like,
comedy will just be perfected.
Dude. Humor is randomly generated.
But I also think I think all humans kind of like that feeling of having it come from another human, right?
Yeah.
Like, seeing robots kill each other was going to be sick, right? Like replacing humans.
Dude, we are all a mini version of Steve. in this sense where we're gonna get our own little AIs we're gonna have them destroy each other and do all these things that we want to do.
That's what I mean. When I give people this thing, when I pitch them this idea that the universe is a simulation and that we're just being run by some dude on a computer, and they're like, that's crazy, it's never gonna happen. I'm like, okay, so let's think. Computers have gotten exponentially better in the last 100 years. Exponentially. Every single year, something crazier comes out with computers. That trend is supposed to increase, right? Like, that is supposed to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So if that keeps going, and we end up having computers that can process just amazing things, and you're telling me that you wouldn't want to play with that? Like, as a person.
Yeah, no.
You're telling me you wouldn't... And then immediately they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, because it's... First of all, hearing that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to see... In the perfect simulated environment, that is exactly how you look at your own environment. You can do all the things that you wished you could have done and see how the world would have turned out.
VR technology takes off. You can implant yourself.
You
in
can
it.
be Jesus.
You'll be, dude. Telling you, when simulations take off, the porn industry is going to take off.
It already has, dude.
Further than that.
I know, but like now
you'll be able to create the perfect person.
If you do a quick Google search, I wouldn't recommend it because I can tell you right now.
What are you gonna say,
dude? All I'm gonna say is that the Japanese are weird people. They have too much time on their hands. I swear to God.
I'm so scared.
The VR headsets with touchable things.
Oh, where you can like experience the sensation.
Where
like
you
that.
experience the sensation.
I think that would be cool. Not for that area of life, but it'd be cool for things like gaming.
Yeah,
like imagine feeling a bullet.
No, you can run. So
yeah,
there's that thing where it looks. It's kind of like a treadmill thing, but it's in the shape of like a hexagon, and you're like tied in there, where you can full on sprint in it with the VR headset.
Do you think it's like super assisted running? So it's like
you're running.
So you're not like experience the heat. And, like,
what happens is the video that I saw was a guy with a VR headset. He was holding a rifle,
like he was playing Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, he was playing some sort of shooter game where he was able to turn all the way 360 in this kind of like small ring. And he was running on a treadmill that could run in any direction. Every time he would maneuver his body, the treadmill would move with him, and he could full-on sprint, and his character would move with him. He was the character in the game. And he could stop to shoot with his, like, I guess, game controller, which was...
Yeah, it was a rifle. In the shape of a gun. Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's here. We're almost there. Yeah. I really believe that we could continue this cycle of... the simulation made a simulation that made a simulation. We all become...
It just makes sense.
It does.
Like, unless we get wiped out because Steve is just pissed and he decides to flood the universe. I don't get how we don't get to that point. If we get wiped out somehow, if human race takes just such, like, a huge detriment, or we invent AI and that kills us. Mm-hmm. Because AI is... Dude, it's okay. Just to give you like an example of how scary AI can be, one of the examples I heard was the world's most extreme paperclip maker. It's useless, but we code it to say, what we want you to make paperclips, and we want you to, that's your prime directive, and you have to make it at the most efficient possible way. Mm-hmm. And if we don't program that right, it will make 20,000 years of progress every year. It'll start converting atoms into the materials needed to make paper clips until it's just steamrolling through human societies in its freaking never-ending like cycle of creating paper clips, right? So it's like we have to be very careful in the way we tell AI to do things, because I saw it was like one of the examples was maximize dopamine output in humans. Okay, so the AI creates a giant human zoo where everybody is hooked up to like dopamine or maybe serotonin, or so we're all experiencing pleasure and we're happy, but that's not life, right? We don't want that for humans. People don't want that.
Yeah, people looking at that situation wouldn't want that. Yeah. But if you're in the situation,
you don't really think anything of it.
You don't think of it because you're happy. You have dopamine. And you're just kind of chilling in that zoo, and you don't know why you're happy. But
that would be
when you tamper with human emotions, you really
because it's all chemical.
Yeah, it's very just. Yeah. It seems so. Emotions seem like something that is so embedded in humans and impossible to change. But I can tell you just from telling people different things, it is really easy to manipulate people. And their emotions. Yeah. You can make somebody angry in an instant You can make somebody sad in an instant.
You can make somebody happy pretty fast.
Exactly. You can mess with human emotions so easily. It's crazy how...
Yeah, and then in this case, you're literally just implanting the thing that...
And it's that
creates...
mindset. So if you're in a constant angry mindset, you're going to think poorly of everything. You're going to be really just angry all the time and want the worst.
And
but
it'll just perpetuate.
But if AI were to make us into a dopamine zoo, where we would be like... We wouldn't question anything because we're happy with it.
Yeah,
and anything we're happy with, we would just leave it be because we don't want to not be happy.
Well, and the idea is that this AI is probably going to do everything it can to keep us alive.
Yeah.
Right? So on the outside, human advancement is technically happening, but we're in like this bubble of like existence.
Yeah, it's all a lie.
Well, the question is though, because like, what do you have, right? So does it just strap us down, and then just to hook us up to this serotonin hose, and then just kind of advance and make sure everything is running, and then because like maybe it calculates that there's a meteor hitting Earth in 1,000,000 years, right? So it does everything it can to advance far enough to stop any sort of outside meteor strikes, because that will decrease humans' happiness.
Yeah.
And so it'll only advance to so far, that whatever it needs to. So it'll probably go pretty far on its own, but. I don't know. It would be interesting.
It's all very...
It's weird.
Yeah. It's so weird. Thinking about how us as human beings... Because everyone thinks everyone matters, right? That's the general...
I think...
That people matter.
In debate, when I took a debate class, what you can always go back to is that life is good. This is the basis for any debate. Is that for any debate that isn't debating this, maximizing life, lives are good, right? So you go back like this is why we're doing this, and the reason behind it is because this makes life better, and yes, we could solve world hunger by mass genocide, right?
Yeah.
But life is good, so that's not a solution.
Yeah, and it's really degrading if you think about it. So to think that there's another world and possibly an infinite amount of worlds that just continue the chain where, Steve that created this simulation is running in his own simulation that Daisy created, that, maybe Jesus, the space octopus, created. It's just...
It's the space octopus.
And it's an infinite... sort of loop, and you really kind of think if you're a simulation of a simulation of a simulation and so on and so forth, that what in the world, it really kind of gives you to some crazy person, go out in the street and do whatever the hell you want because it's all a simulation. Give you that
kind of mentality.
Which is why we are starting a religion, not a cult.
But
it is all for Steve.
For me, I think it's interesting because what that shows, if that's true, is just it gives me an appreciation for the complexity of the universe, right? Like the stuff like this that can happen, it's ridiculous, and the fact that we can quantify and guess a lot of this stuff, right? It's like, okay, so we kind of know when the universe started based on, or like we know when the laws of physics start to break down because we can look back in time through the distance light takes or whatever to get here, right? So so we can tell how old light is, and then that way we can look back and we can see how old the universe is, and then we can also like look with our extreme crazy telescope boys, and we could say like, okay, so right there we think the Big Bang happened because everything we've come to know as true stops happening over there.
Yeah.
So
it's when Steve loaded up the server.
That's as much server. Maybe that's as much data that he's given, right? So it's like maybe that's as much as the computer can hold. How much processing? It wouldn't even take that much because all you have to do, depending on how many worlds he's got going, right? Because you can kind of just have like background processes going, and then have things like just kind of load in. Like,
what if all the other worlds are like dead saves?
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that it's it's somewhat known that Mars at one point was kind of similar to Earth.
I know it had
water.
Water, which doesn't necessarily mean it had life.
No, but water
it means
is the essence of life.
Could have had it.
You need water for life.
Yeah,
that we know.
That we know.
Life that we know requires water. So, the idea that I'm kind of pitching here is that because all the worlds around us have no life.
Mars.
He just kind of like, I don't know, he got tired of it.
Or a simulation just completed its cycle.
Maybe.
You know? Like you ever like. We're thinking about from a point where
game over,
where like Steve had to have done something to end it all, but he doesn't. Right? He could have just not touched the keyboard and just let the simulation run, and eventually the species just died off. The question is, though, how do you not find remnants of the past? It could have just been like a short time period where things happened and then the universe, then Mars fell apart, right? Like that could have happened. But like in my head, I really like to think there was just this cool species of Martians. Here's another wacky Bible theory for you.
Hit me.
So, it's the humans came from Venus theory, and it's weird. I don't agree with it. I think it's fun to think about.
All right, explain.
So, let's imagine that humans get, we get swole, right? So we get big brained, and we get to Mars, and we start colonizing, and we have a connection to Earth and everything, and then one day, something happens to Earth.
Steve did
bada bing, bada boom. Earth dead. Everybody on Earth dead. So all that's left are the Martians who have colonized, right?
Yeah.
And so the original Martians who experienced Earth, they all come together. And they write everything down. From the past and what they knew about human civilization from Earth. Because they were the Earthlings, right? And so let's say that they write everything down in a book, and then their kids, who know nothing of Earth and know nothing about the modern technology or anything, kind of just have this book. And as time goes on and people breed, this book is rewritten and languages adapt and things like that happen.
Are you kind of coming up with a Bible sort of book here?
This is the theory of how the Bible happened. Is that it became there were so many interpretations and so many different languages that kind of filed through, and it was changed to fit narratives and changed over thousands of times. So you get to just a book of stories and what life might have been like for like somebody else.
Yeah. But initially that kind of conflicts with religion we know now.
Yeah.
Because that would suggest that there was something other than humans and we aren't special.
Not necessarily, right? Because I'm saying it was humans to begin with. So we started on Venus, right? The idea is we started on Venus, and then Venus fell apart, and so we colonized Earth, and then.
Because you messed up your words then.
What?
Because you said Earth fell apart.
Well, because I was explaining. From our point of view now.
Yeah.
If you look at us now, the comparison with us going to Mars.
Yeah.
So the going back on that is we started at Venus, did all the good, right? Became humans, did all the societal builds and became crazy, made it to Earth, and then Venus fell apart, and the people who had been to Venus wrote everything down that they knew, and after their kids didn't really understand math and technology and all that, kind of get sent back to this kind of primal era where all they know is this book. And they kind of understand language.
So like the Dark Ages, sort of medieval times.
And so they have to figure everything out again, and they just breed, and the stories get lost, and languages develop, and all they have is this book that gets passed down generation after generation.
And then constantly changed and manipulated to where you change pedophiles to gays. Not being very specific here.
God. What religion would do that?
What? Hating gay people. It's not like it used to say, what is it? Thou shalt not lie with child or something like that.
I don't know. Dude, religion is pretty corrupt.
Yeah. And that's what this is. Like the simulation theory. We could easily I've suggested corrupting because all you need are some gullible people.
Dude, look at flat Earth, right? Like if we came out, like if we dedicated, I think, a ton of time to this, and we made it foolproof, right? And we come up with some weird some weird proof, and we give evidence, and even I think the bare minimum will get believers, right? Like,
yeah.
And if we don't put it under a name like Fat and Lonely, and obviously we're not here to entertain. We're here, like, if we were here to try to convert, and we got an audience, dude, there'd be believers. That's all Scientology was.
Yeah. You just gotta. A big thing is you gotta sound like you know what you're talking about.
You gotta sell away your ethics.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not hard.
Dude, if you look at the freaking Pope, how he's balling out.
God, I want to be balling like Pope Francis.
Do you think? Okay. Do you think the Pope believes in what he's preaching? Or...
Dude, I've thought about if people actually in power like that, in high religious status, if they believe what they're saying, and I wouldn't think so. I mean,
really?
There's.
If you dedicate your life to something,
if
you're raised into it.
Yeah, they've dedicated their lives into it, and people look up to them.
Uh-huh.
Like, so you're not supposed to look at people like they're God, but people would look at Pope Francis like he is pretty much.
He's like the next.
He's like the next best thing.
Yeah.
So, and to Pope Francis, he's got to know he's not a god, but people see him like that. He has
kind
all
of like
of this.
The messenger, I think.
Yeah,
is the deal.
And it's the same thing with people that believe that some higher being, AKA the Lord, speaks to them.
Yeah.
People who speak in tongues and who think that this is the Lord, like, using them as a vessel to communicate.
That's a bunch of baloney.
I think that's so much baloney, thinking that some random person out here spazzes out on the floor and says a bunch of nonsense and says that was God, like, talking through him. That was,
I think even if you believe in God,
if you believe in God, I think if you really believed, you wouldn't do all this nonsense stuff
to try to
try and prove a point, because the essence to me, if you believed in something and it made you happy, why would you care if other people believed in it? Why would you care how many followers you have?
The thing about Christianity is, like, get more people. We need
exactly,
because it comes from this place of control.
So
if you look at the Catholic Church, and what it did for hundreds of years, how everything they did was about control. It is crazy. The whole crusade, the whole crusade was about the
it was taking out a rival power.
Was it the Muslims? The Muslim community? Or
I think it was some
Middle Eastern community that was on the rise.
Yeah, they were coming.
And so it was all economic, and they wanted land, so they said, God wants us to take back the motherland. Sacrifice your lives. Let's go. This is in the name of the Lord. People did that, and it makes sense. Like, religion was all about order, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think religion was looked at in almost the same way that you look at laws now, right?
Yeah.
I think because if you put the fear of God in someone, they're not going to want to stray from that. Like, you don't want to go against that, right?
Yeah.
Because the idea of eternal hellfire and damnation is just horrifying.
Yeah, and so people who really, they say like they believe, but they have a drink every now and again, or they do something that they're not supposed to, and they're like, it's fine. Like, if you truly believed, you wouldn't ever want to do that.
I also think in the Bible, doesn't it say like everybody sins, like it's permissible sometimes?
See, and that's another thing of where it's like, okay, buddy boy, it's playing both sides. There's so many loopholes, and that's another reason of why I'm really thinking, Pope Francis, do you really believe? Because there's all these loopholes and all of this garbage.
Because he's an educated man,
no
doubt. Man teaches Latin.
It's just crazy. So I don't know. I don't think I can really. If I were to guess, I would say believing
he has doubts.
I would,
At least.
at least doubts. There's no way he doesn't have doubts. As educated and as powerful of a man as he is, there's no way he hasn't once looked at himself in the mirror and said,
"What am I?"
Exactly. What am I telling? Do I believe what I'm telling other people to believe?
That is a painful existence.
Exactly. And so you put on a face and you pretend to be this huge being to guide people into happiness and living a life that he deems is right, because that's what he's been taught and what everyone else has been taught, and he's been put into a position of power to teach other people exactly what he was.
And he probably has heard. Do you think he lives in a bubble, or do you think he's heard all?
I think he's I think he lives in a bubble. I mean, why would somebody surround themselves with other differing opinions when he himself is supposed to be the head honcho of that opinion?
So you think he just doesn't want to be in an area where he talks to people about, he doesn't want to expose himself to the idea of being convinced?
Yeah. I think the Pope if we're using the Pope as an example, that he just kind of lives in his own world.
I would love to know people in high positions of power.
Yeah. Like
these people who we tend to think are either corrupt or good people. And
Fat and Lonely Podcast, we have the Pope here.
Pope, do you believe? We've got 3 viewers whose minds are blown when the Pope is like, nah, it's a bunch of BS.
God.
The Pope comes in, he's got slacks and a freaking stained hoodie and a beer, and he's like...
Aviators on. He's just freaking...
pulls up in a Rolexus.
I would love that. Just Pope, nobody. He's like, dude, nobody's watching your shit. What, you got 3 people here that are gonna listen to me spout nonsense?
Nah, dude. It's baloney.
I'm rich. I'm old.
Because the Bible also says, don't be rich.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that also a thing where they're just and then that's just something everybody's just kind of nah.
Exactly. It's making an exception because corruption.
My thing
and
is
human greed.
The 10% of your paycheck donation to the Catholic Church. What? They're Catholics are expected to give 10% of their paycheck. I don't know a lot of people who could exist how do you exist giving away 10% of your funds to...
I don't know, God will provide. I mean, there's just a whole lot of things where...
It's a little sketchy to me.
Yeah, that's why, again, simulation theory works, because religion doesn't. In our minds right now, the way that we just explained it, religion doesn't really work out. It doesn't make any sense from a logical standpoint.
From our point of view...
Why would you give your life away for something that you don't know is true? And that is because people in the simulation, it's been going, and things have happened, and Steve is up in there and up at the clouds looking down, and he kind of planted the seeds. It's all just a game.
All simulations go to heaven, bro.
Yeah, because it's about seeing what we described, is seeing what would happen if this happened instead of this, or if this went on instead of that. So a lot of it doesn't make any sense, so to say it's a simulation would mean that it doesn't have to make sense, because it was planted there on purpose.
And you can screw with physics and
exactly.
Do all that.
You can... I don't see...
You can explain the unexplainable through religion, is basically what our entire existence has been, right?
Yeah.
From day one, human existence has been why? Right? What are we doing? Why do things exist? Why do I exist? Did I get created, right? I've only ever experienced creation.
Yeah.
So something must have had to create me.
Exactly. And when I was little, and I went to a private school for a summer, it was just because public school was closed, and I went to it was a place called Anchor Lutheran, and there was this little kid. I was maybe, I don't know, 10 at the time or less than 10, and this little kid who was years younger than me, he was religious, and he said, we were talking about how the world was made in 7 days. And me being a little kid, I'm like, how could that have happened? That doesn't make any sense. And I was talking to him about it, and I remember, to this day, exactly what he said. You have your opinion, and I have my facts.
Yeah.
About the world being created in 7 days. And to me, that has always really stuck with me on how how religion can grasp at someone like that, who didn't even have any facts, who had no facts at all, except what he was fed by his parents. It's so crazy.
I'm even somebody who's like, religion's fine. Like,
yeah.
Don't use it to hate people.
But
first of all,
does. That's
a
the
lot
problem.
of people use it to hate people. But if you're privately at home and God is giving you hope, and God is making you a better person,
then it's good.
Then it's a great thing.
It's so good because people need something.
People do need stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been asked before, like, it's like, okay, so if you don't have God, where do you get your hope from? How do you have hope? It's like, well, first of all, I believe science has guided us in the way of a better living than any sort of religion has ever done for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I see educated people making my life better on the daily through science, through human technology and human advancement. That's where I derive my hope, is that human life has been on, like, it's been rocky, right?
Yeah.
Our history is screwed up, and I'm sure we'll look back, if we're alive, if human existence is going in another few generations, we'll look back on now and say, look how primal, look how primal these people were. Like, because you look at the 1900s and you're like, damn, they had screwed up thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They had poor technology. They had polio.
poor technology, screwed up thinking, polio. I mean, they. But
and people will look back now, like, Neuralink in 10 years will cure Alzheimer's. You know that? That's the goal.
The goal is
within 10 years. Neuralink wants to cure Alzheimer's, and it wants to cure paralysis and cure, because you know how it works, right? So basically, they implant the idea is they implant the chip into your head through, like, into, like, a patch of your skull, and it has a bunch of little line boys that connect to your brain. Obviously, I'm an educated man, and it like hooks into your brain, and so that connects to it creates neural pathways, and so the way you fix paralysis. So, like, let's say you slip a disc, or I don't know, their spinal cord gets severed, right? And so you lose feeling.
So you lose your spine.
Yeah. So you lose your spine, and you have no leg movement at all. And the only reason that happens is because the pathway from your brain telling you your legs to move just isn't there.
Yeah.
So what Neuralink does is they go in and they program, they create these pathways that don't need to be connected that way, where they can implant it in different parts of your body via just without, like, they can connect it through itself, so that if you get a shredded spinal cord, you have something that is connecting your brain to your legs again. And so what this does with what did I say? The Alzheimer's. That was ironic. Anyways.
God. You stop that.
Forgetting the Alzheimer's joke. With Alzheimer's, it's like, okay, so Neuralink has the ability to store thoughts and information on a level that the brain can't. So it can just it remembers these neural pathways that were open that are basically memories, because all memories are is a sequence of neurons being fired, and then once those neurons are fired, they create they create that pathway, so it's easier for those neurons to form, or the flow or whatever, and I have to add whatever at the end,
or whatever,
so that if I get it wrong.
Yeah, you can be like, oh, well, I said or whatever.
I obviously don't know what I'm talking about, but this is from my understanding. This is how it works. And so those pathways flow and whatever, and whatever. And so all that happens, and what the Neuralink does is it's able to remember those without the deterioration of the human brain.
And whatever.
But, like, and so that's how you cure those kind of things.
Or whatever.
Yeah. And it's pretty crazy,
and and whatever.
It'll be interesting to see, because he also wants to get a point. I think he also said, I think it was like the number was actually shorter for curing Alzheimer's. It wasn't 10 years. It was like 3, 5.
What?
Yeah.
Then why'd you say 10?
Because I think the 10-year number was being able to access the internet through your brain. Like, like everything is at... Basically, what Elon Musk wants to do is he says that you already have AI in... Like, you and AI are already one already. We've already done it. Your phone is that. You are constantly... It's part of you, right?
Yeah, but it's also...
And he's saying...
It has that huge human element.
That's what he's saying. He said the only thing we're limited to is our input. Mm-hmm. So, our thumbs can make like 10 like maybe like what, like 30 actions in a minute or whatever the number, like maybe 10 actions a second on a good, like if you're really trying. But whereas the brain can make it without like, you don't need, the only thing we're limited by is our human little thummies, right?
Yeah.
And so he wants to remove that physical element and attach it straight up to the brain.
So we're becoming human nuggets, and we will have little floaty chairs with no limbs, and we'll just have...
It's going to be Wall-E.
We're going to be Wall-E. Only we'll just not have arms or legs, and just little floaty doohickeys.
Dude,
instead.
can you imagine you just floating along?
I can imagine.
Telepathy.
See, what I hate is I can perfectly imagine this, where we are all nuggets of beings.
Because... realistically, the way evolution works, right?
We'll become beans.
Right? So if we get to a point where we can float... I don't know why we'd want this. I think it'd be bad for us. But
I think...
let's say, hypothetically, humans all just... It becomes a fad to float.
Uh-huh.
So, over millions of years, we just float around because that's what we like to do. and eventually, like, biology and evolution takes over. And so we just, like... So, you know, after you're not using your legs for a while, they get small. And after breeding with somebody who also has small legs, you just become these, like, floating nuggets in space who don't need legs. Because evolution happened, you'd be something completely different from what you look like now.
Floating nuggets in space who don't need legs.
I think in the future, there are going to be, like, if humans exist millions of years from now, first of all, they're not going to look anything like we look now. Yeah. I think we're going to start losing things.
We're gonna get gills.
Why?
I don't know.
What purpose?
Bro.
What? It's like one day some kid wakes up, oh, I can breathe underwater.
Exactly.
That's not... No.
No, I just said it. Alright? It's happening. Why? Steve, give us the gill update.
Gill update.
I want gills.
I want to be a fishy lad. Oh, goodness.
I completely derailed you. Yes.
No, but like, okay, so let's say you have like small bits, right? So it's like, you don't need...
I have small bits, yeah.
So it's like, there's certain things that humans won't need in the future because they just aren't needed anymore. Like, what? I don't know, what do we not use?
Tailbones.
Legs. Get rid of them.
Eyelashes? Goner.
I've heard... Okay, so a lot of, like, the projected human evolutions are, like...
fingernails?
Head's gonna...
Who needs them?
The brain's gonna get, like, smaller. Because it won't... Not because... It just... Because it's so efficient, right?
Small brain.
Small brain. and things like humans will get taller, because we've been getting real big, right? Like, if you look at humans now compared to humans 1,000 years ago,
yeah,
it was like I thought it was a Family Guy joke where Jesus was like 5'4", and he came back when upon Jesus' resurrection, everybody was towering over him, and he's like, "This is how people looked during my time," and they were all just like 5'4".
God, at Josh.
Josh, our friend who's 5'7",
and a communist,
and
I
want to have him.
It's fine.
We should have him on the podcast, and just like, or probably just one-on-one, because probably wouldn't want both of us talking, because I feel like that would get heated. But I feel like it'd be interesting to have Josh here to talk to him about the way he views the world, and just have like a civil discussion with him.
Our friend Josh describes himself as an anarchist communist. Those two words that you don't want to hear them alone, let alone together.
It's interesting, and because what happens every time I try to talk to him about it, it kind of gets heated because I disagree fundamentally on his basis for politics.
Yeah.
And that makes any sort of making ground difficult. But I would like to get him on the podcast just to talk to him and like try to make it as peaceful as possible, where he gives me his ideas, and I just kind of listen to him. Talk about it and kind of interject with a few of my own opinions.
See, because I've talked to him a little bit about it, and he cannot explain it himself very well.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'd like to give him time. Say, like, here's this. Get your thoughts in order, because I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear it, because it sucks, but humans have politics through feelings. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I wish we could take that element out, where we could just decide, okay, let's not look at religion to make our decisions. Let's not look at certain things to make our... Mainly religion. I have... My biggest problem is looking at religion and being like, this is how the country should run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on things like... Ready for me to be slightly controversial, I guess. Like, things on abortion, right? Whether you agree with it or not...
Abortion!
Now you mentioned the word!
Oh my god!
But things like that. Like...
Do you want
If you can give me some serious explanation that isn't religious for it...
Stomping on babies.
Like,
is it okay? I say yes.
Obviously, we know that's not... But, like... Because...
Pregnant women.
I'm going to say it.
Beat them. Kill the baby.
I believe it's okay.
Oh.
But, like, if you don't... I'm more than happy to listen to people with different opinions.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when it's tied to a religious place. Because I feel like that's another thing where we disagree fundamentally.
Yeah, you can just like to kill babies and it's fine.
God,
I am pro-abortion though, so I don't have babies, so I don't think my opinion really matters. I just say that women, if you don't want that baby because that was like not meant to be there, take it out. Or you're financially not stable, take it out. Why raise a child?
If it's your choice,
if
you want to raise a child,
your choice. It's all about you. It's all about you, girl.
On your 16th birthday.
Exactly.
At SpongeBob. Okay.
At SpongeBob. But I think that's...
We also are starting to get to a point, though, where it's like people don't want to hear arguments, right?
Yeah.
People do not want to hear other arguments. Like, it's like, hey, I think abortion's fine. And then somebody's like, well, I disagree. And then they're just like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's not conduct. That doesn't do anything good, right?
No, it does great things. It creates conflict.
It creates hatred.
Yeah. It's so good because you have, and I notice, I don't want to generalize, but when you get, I'll say it, radicals in any sense, it's like they don't want to believe anything else.
Because it becomes tied, well, that's like...
So, like, more left people, I kind of always say that politics allows hate of certain people the farther you go into it.
That's true.
It's not that you can be super radical right and not hate black people, but it is allowed for you to do that. So there's that.
Oh, I feel
there's that thing where if there's the stereotype that if you're Republican, you're racist. No, not inherently, but it allows for it. Just like if you're far left, you can despise men more, you despise white people in general, and that's allowed. That's
in that group of people.
In that group of people, hating the white male is allowed. Like in far right, hating people of color is allowed.
And women. And,
you don't have to do that. You can view whatever you'd like, but the fact that it is known and it's expected of those sides.
And I think almost though, like that's kind of what you get though. Like from if you're an extremist and you're in this far left or far right area, what makes you as extreme is those views, right? Because like if you take away all the like the racism and the woman hating and like just the weird views of like family rates, you're just left with like Republican views, right? If you're on the right,
I guess. So yeah, I mean,
so I like because I think we've talked about this too, where
because there's like the rights of like a controversial topic that doesn't have to do with like hating rights or not rights, but like race and people is like guns.
Yeah, well, because that's not an extremist view. Yeah, that's just the Republican.
That's
view.
just like a simple ideal that just I guess if you're looked at as Republican, you obviously view guns as something that's necessary, And if you're more left, you, depending on how far left you are, you're like, some gun control would be nice. Maybe not a whole lot of guns. No guns.
So I'd like to point out, just real quick, to derail the conversation, Kate Springsteen has said, I don't think they realized that they described the plot of The Matrix for the first half of their podcast. I gotta watch The Matrix. I haven't seen it, no.
Dude, oh my god. Yeah, we pretty much kind of did.
Did we?
I mean, so the difference is, at the core, what we kind of explained is The Matrix, but how we derailed it into our own version was we added Steve.
Our sect of...
Yeah. What made it really interesting for us is that instead of this depressing, never-ending cycle, it is Steve and Daisy, these crazy freaking people.
Who are playing a video game that's...
Or maybe not people.
Yeah.
They're just some, like we said, space octopus playing bongos.
Yeah.
Like, it's just some otherworldly being in a world similar to ours, messing around.
Mm-hmm.
And that...
I think that's a fun way of looking at it.
It is. It's a really fun way.
My understanding of The Matrix is pretty dark.
Yeah.
Right? They are, like, ripping people apart.
Pretty much.
Anyways, we were talking about politics.
Dude, yeah, we went from freaking Steve to politics and
then
right wing and left.
Tie it all back in.
Yeah, we gotta all encompass it into the simulation, because that's all we are: worthless, simulated people who are gonna die, and you're either gonna go to like the Karen hell, where you will build, you will chisel out the octopus statue eternally, or you'll go to the cloud and you'll be put in a dopamine zoo.
I'm fine with that personally. Slap me in there, dog.
But I think you think that's good.
We can call it if you want. Yeah.
All
right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. This is fun to be back. I'm sure we'll start doing these more often. We've got a lot of stuff to say and a lot of
depending
thoughts
on how
to put out.
because school's coming up fast.
Yeah, it's gonna be online though. So.
Yeah, but we don't know exactly what's happening.
It'll be weird.
I'm not informed, so if anyone
not
is
informed at all.
Yeah, no.
I just know what's happening. I don't even know what classes I'm taking. It's weird.
Dude, I have no clue what classes I am.
Anyways, stay safe. Wear a mask if you can.
Yeah. Don't let politics blind you. Masks, just do it.
It's not even political anymore. It's literally like if Donald Trump came out and he said, wear it, right? Like this is, the left was saying it already. Now the right is saying it. It's not political anymore. Wear your masks.
Do it.
We love you, folks. Stay fat, stay lonely. See ya.
All right, boy.